let's just jump right in. Forget the idea that getting smarter means you need decades of school or a bunch of trendy brain hacks you see all over the internet. Today, we're going to break down a really powerful, super direct method for learning new skills and, more importantly, making sure that knowledge actually sticks.
I mean, it's a goal most of us have, right? We want to pick up useful skills, solve problems better, just feel a little more confident in what we know. But the path we're usually shown to get there, well, it's often presented as this incredibly long, complicated journey.
You know the drill. The traditional route tells us to spend literally decades in school. And look, education is great, but the source material kind of pokes fun at the idea that this long, long marathon of learning is the only way, or that it even guarantees success. There's gotta be a more direct way, right? So if that long road isn't always the answer, what about all the shortcuts? I'm sure you've seen them online, these so-called brain hacks that promise to make you a genius overnight. Yeah, the internet is just flooded with advice like this. Eat blueberries, listen to Mozart, get exactly 8 hours of sleep. And hey, while all that stuff is probably good for your health, it's not a substitute for the real work. It's like dancing around the main event. And that's really the heart of it. All the brain food and classical music in the world won't do a thing if you're not actually engaging with new information. At some point, as the source puts it, you just have to get in there and actually learn the stuff. Okay, so this brings us to the single most important principle for learning anything effectively. It's not a hack, it's not a trick, it's basically the operating manual for your brain.
It's so simple, but it is so powerful. Use it or lose it. Seriously, if you learn something new and then you don't apply it, your brain literally flags that information as useless and just tosses it out. To make knowledge stick, you have to prove to your brain that it's worth keeping around.
So, if we have to use our knowledge, how can we do it efficiently? I mean, who has time for everything? This is where the amazing 80-20 rule comes in. It basically says that for any skill you want to learn, you can get 80% of the results by mastering just 20% of the most important knowledge. Just think about that. You don't need to know everything. You just need to figure out what that critical 20% is and master it. For a language, that might be the 300 most common words. For coding, maybe it's the basic syntax and logic. If you can nail that core part, you're most of the way there. The real question is, how do you master it? The answer couldn't be simpler. Practice. That's it. Reading a book about how to tie a knot won't actually teach you how to do it. You learn by doing it. Practice is the essential bridge that turns abstract information into a real usable skill. So let's actually look at how this works. There are two incredibly effective ways to practice and basically signal to your brain, hey, this new info is important, keep it. The first method is the most obvious one, physical practice. You learn something, and then you immediately go do it. Let's say you read a chapter on the most efficient way to clean a bedroom. The very next step is simple. Get up and go clean a bedroom. That immediate application forges this super strong connection in your brain.
But that's a fair question, right? What if you can't practice it right now? You might not have the tools, or maybe you don't have, two cars sitting around so you can practice jump starting one. So what do you do then?
This is where the second method, mental practice, comes in, and it's so cool. You learn the information. For example, you look at a diagram on how to jumpstart a car. Then you close your eyes and you vividly imagine the whole scene. Picture it. You're on the side of the road, it's raining, you pop the hood, you connect the red cable to the positive terminal, the black cable to the negative. By mentally rehearsing the whole process, you're actually convincing your brain that you've used the information.
And right there, that's the huge difference. The average learner just tries to memorize a diagram and hopes for the best. The 80-20 learner mentally rehearses the skill. So when the pressure is on, the first person freezes up, but the second person remembers exactly what to do because in their mind, they've already done it before.
All right, let's bring this all together. What is it about this active use, whether it's physical or just in your head, that makes knowledge stick around for the long haul? Believe it or not, this is the very same principle the school system is built on. A teacher gives you information, but since you might not actually need to use it for years, they have to create an artificial situation where it suddenly becomes really, really useful. We just call that a test. But here's the huge flaw in that system. A test creates a temporary need. So as soon as it's over, your brain basically says, okay, that information is no longer useful, and it just lets it go. That's exactly why we forget so much of what we supposedly learned in school. This is also why passive study methods like just rereading your notes or making mind maps aren't nearly as effective. The most powerful tool is doing practice questions because they force you to simulate using the knowledge. It's a form of mental practice that tells your brain, hey, This is important. Keep it.
So, if you really want to learn and hold on to new skills, the path is actually super simple. Don't just consume information, use it. Apply it physically if you can, and visualize yourself applying it if you can't. Just give your brain a reason to hold on to the knowledge.
This leaves us with a final thought. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by trying to learn everything about a new topic, ask yourself this. What is the critical 20% of a skill you've always wanted to learn? And more importantly, how are you going to practice it, physically or mentally, today?